I consider it a privilege and honor to be here with you today. As you heard in the introduction, I'm a physician recruiter and executive search consultant. My focus is solely within pediatrics and pediatric subspecialties. For over 26 years, I've helped people find professional opportunities that improve their lives and meet the goals and dreams that they have for their work, which in turn impacts organizations and makes everyone's lives better. That's my job, but my passion, my calling really, is actually helping doctors to recognize and seize opportunities, monumental opportunities on the job front, to draw from the theme of this year's conference. It's what brings me joy and wakes me up every day excited to start the day. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how you too can not only see, but seize monumental once-in-a-lifetime opportunities in your job search, and most importantly, what to do so you don't miss out on them. I'd like for you to take a moment to envision your dream job. Don't edit yourself. Just paint a mental picture of what your perfect job looks and feels like. Where is it located? Is it in a children's hospital or in a rural health clinic? Who are your coworkers? What does the team look like? Are they happy? What do they talk about? What types of patients do you see? What are their issues and concerns? How much money are you making? What's your call schedule? Or do you work without a call schedule in an outpatient setting? Imagine yourself walking minute by minute, hour by hour, through your perfect day at your dream job. Finally, imagine walking through the door of your home at the end of the day and telling your significant other how everything happened during your day. Now that you've painted this idyllic picture, I'd like for you to erase it from your mental chalkboard. Forget everything that you just dreamt about. Why? Because there's no such thing as utopia. Unfortunately, there is no perfect mate or perfect kids, nor a perfect life. But just because perfection doesn't exist doesn't mean there isn't the closest thing possible, or perhaps even better than what you imagined. Perhaps consider that there might be monumental opportunities, life-changing opportunities. Oftentimes what we need or desire is perfectly within our grasp. We just have to peel back the layer and look to find the gift behind it. So consider the following. Your picture-perfect mate. Are they tall, dark, and handsome? Well, what if your best match, the person who will be your biggest advocate and best friend, who will be with you in sickness and in health, who will be your partner in the truest sense of the word, isn't tall and dark, but maybe a short redhead with a great personality? Would you say, no thanks, I'm holding out for perfect? Or would you open your heart to the loving person who's standing right in front of you, offering to make your life better? Think about your children. Did you dream that your son would be a high school basketball star, but instead he's a tech whiz who loves calculus and writing code? Do you bemoan the fact that he'll never be the next Michael Jordan? Or do you celebrate because he could be the next Steve Jobs? So now your dream job. Would you love an academic appointment in one of our nation's largest metro areas that's a short drive from family? What if you were offered a position that puts you 1,000 miles away from family in a busy freestanding children's hospital that offers the chance to own the home of your dreams, as well as the quality of life you can't get in your current hometown? Would you stay put because the environment is comfortable and familiar? Or would you pack up your spouse and kids and embrace a new and exciting opportunity that creates the life of your dreams? When it comes to weighing opportunities, do you focus your search on something familiar, or are you open to exploring something better? What if better doesn't exist? But what if it does? How can you spot an opportunity that might not come along again? And even if you miss this opportunity, won't another, possibly even better one, come along in the future? These are the questions that I know keep physicians up at night. I hear questions like these every day and coach people through the anxieties of these big questions. They're daunting questions, but I have some good news and some even better news for you. The good news is that you can relax. Opportunities of a lifetime, those truly monumental opportunities, don't disappear. They do come back around as someone else's opportunities of a lifetime. But even if you miss one opportunity, you still have a chance to get it right. The even better news is that you can learn to recognize monumental opportunities in your job search. You just have to shift your paradigm and be willing to see and do a few things slightly differently. First, you must be open to the possibilities that could be better. Second, you must be willing to look past the packaging to see the gift. Third, you must create a support system that helps you maintain perspective and stay focused. And fourth, you must be willing to trust the process. And finally, you must be willing to seize the opportunity when it appears. Over the next few minutes, I'll show you how to see and seize monumental opportunities in your career. First, be open to the possibility of better. In sales, there's an acronym called ABC, Always Be Closing. When it comes to your job search, I recommend that you subscribe to the philosophy best summarized by ABO, Always Be Open. Always be open to considering an option that could be a better professional opportunity, even if you hadn't considered that geographic location. Always be open to a better professional opportunity, even if you're not actively looking for one, especially if you're not looking for one. It sounds rather counterintuitive, doesn't it? Why be open to opportunities when everything seems just fine as it is? Sure, it's fine, but what if it could be better? I encourage you to always be open to new opportunities, because sometimes opportunities of a lifetime appear when we're not looking for them or in a location where we hadn't even imagined living. Before you can recognize a monumental opportunity, you have to be open and receptive to it. That's the first step. I'll prove it to you. Recently, I was working on a search and reached out to a physician who told me that he ideally wanted to settle in the state where my search was located. When I described the opening, he said it sounded perfect. Not just professionally, but personally, for both him and his family. He knew it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for whoever took this job. However, the physician knew this too. He immensely respected the organization and the physician that was actually going to be involved in this program. He interviewed for the job, and I negotiated an offer for him that far exceeded anything he had targeted. The offer was actually in the 90th percentile for compensation in his specialty. He verbally accepted the position and he signed a letter of intent. And then something awful happened. When he received the employment agreement, he started stalling. He said he was excited and he was 100% committed. However, he suddenly started avoiding phone calls, emails, and texts, not only from me, but from the leadership within the hospital. Whereas initially he'd been so enthusiastic, he now seemed very guarded. Red flags started going up for everyone at the hospital involved in the search. After repeated attempts to communicate, he finally admitted to me that suddenly his family wasn't on board. His wife said she would be willing to move in 11 months. Unfortunately, the hospital needed someone in 3, so that wasn't going to work. He said that he couldn't convince her to move any sooner, nor was he willing to consider any of the multiple alternate options that we presented to him for consideration. Unfortunately, I understood his predicament, but also understood that there was an amazing opportunity on the table that was perfect for what he had described for me. To make sure he realized what was at stake, I asked him, if you don't accept this offer and you learn that the person who takes it is doing incredible things a year or 2 down the road, will you regret your decision? He immediately said yes, he would, and he had thought of that, but he just simply couldn't consider any alternatives that we had proposed. And just like that, he sent an email and said he simply couldn't find the solution and let the opportunity slip out of his hands. A week later, my firm reached out to another candidate for the same position who wasn't looking for a job, wasn't looking on any of the job boards, but when he learned about the opportunity, he was open to hearing about it. Think about that. He wasn't looking for a job, wasn't even considering it. He was perfectly happy where he was and accomplishing great things where he was, but he was open to the possibility there could be something better out there in a different locale. Within less than a week, he rearranged his schedule and was on a plane to visit with the client. 2 weeks later, he brought his family back and had a second interview. It turned out that the opportunity actually provided the very situation he had been trying to create himself for 10 years. His current job was good, it was fine, but this new opportunity was actually ideal. It was his dream job. In fact, he described it as that to me and told me that he would do anything to get on a plane and go, even though it wasn't in an area he and his family had ever envisioned themselves living. He was very enthusiastic, and he saw and he seized the monumental opportunity, one he hadn't even been looking for, and he would have missed if we hadn't tapped him on the shoulder. Look past the packaging to see the gift. The American clergyman Charles Swindoll once said, quote, "We are all faced with a series of great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. Great opportunities are often described as problems. In fact, the bigger the challenge, the greater the gift." That's why the second key to recognizing monumental opportunities is to look beyond the packaging to what's inside. Many people walk right past opportunities of a lifetime because they don't initially appear perfect. That's what happened with the first candidate in my previous story. He ran into problems and was unable to see an alternate approach to the situation, so he backed out. While the second candidate saw all of the positives and immediately stepped up to the plate to make it happen. In fact, he signed the letter of intent within less than 5 weeks of my first phone call to him. Before you turn down an opportunity because it appears to offer a few obstacles, step back and ask yourself if the problem is merely cosmetic or if it's truly insurmountable. Are you seeing the glass half full or half empty? Consider the options and the long-term cost of walking away from the opportunity. Create a support system. It's rare that I meet people who enjoy the process of actually looking for a job. It's stressful and most people feel overwhelmed. You get dressed up, you put your best face forward, you put yourself out there, and then you start worrying about the outcome. Will you get the offer that you really want? How do you know if it's the best offer you could obtain? And what about that 23-page employment agreement? It's all rather daunting for most people. No one should actually go it alone. In fact, you'll enjoy your search much more if you have a team in your corner, especially a knowledgeable professional who listens to you, encourages you, cheers you on, and helps you regroup and maintain perspective. The third key, a strong support system, is integral to your ability to recognize the monumental opportunities. Who's in your corner? Who are the people who help you see clearly, to sort fact from fiction and truth from fear? The people who provide you with perspective to make an educated decision as well as encourage you. The ones who help you go for your dreams and know when to accept the offer in front of you rather than allowing you to pass it by. Remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Select your support team carefully. And when selecting your recruiter, be sure to be upfront and honest and choose an experienced professional. The right person will find opportunities that meet your goals and needs while helping you maintain your focus and your positive outlook. Plus, they'll be skilled in areas that are intimidating to most and will know the marketplace to best provide perspective. Just like an exceptional lawyer, CPA, or realtor, it's a relationship that helps you throughout your career. Consider the source of your sound advice. While a strong support system can help you recognize and weigh the merits of life-changing opportunities, it's crucial that you know what advice to heed and what advice to ignore. In fact, the success of your job search and ultimately your ability to recognize and take advantage of opportunities depends on your ability to discern sound advice from advice that doesn't serve your best interests. I'm reminded here of a specialist that I recently worked with who was completing a fellowship in a highly sought-after subspecialty. As he described his ideal practice and the geographic area where he and his family sought to live, I immediately thought of one of my clients who without a doubt met every item on his wish list. I listened, I presented everything about this particular children's hospital, and suggested he and his family explore it firsthand. A few days later, the physician called and provided me with a list of objections about the opportunity. Each answer I provided was met with yet another objection. Eventually, he admitted that a relative, albeit a distant one, had told his wife's mother very discouraging things about the area where the job was located. It didn't matter to him that it had been over 15 years since anyone had visited the area in his family. He immediately was listening to that information. I also let him know that I had placed over 50 doctors in this particular area and had had great success. I sent facts and figures. I gave him nothing but factual information about the opportunity, and again reminded him that it was an all expenses paid visit to take a tour. But he remained deterred, and he chose not to accept the invitation. Fast forward 7 months later, I received an email from the same doctor saying that he wanted to revisit the opportunity. He and his wife had been on a trip less than 2 hours away and had decided to go by on their own dime and take a look. He said they had been pleasantly surprised to find out that the location and hospital were indeed everything I had described. He made an official visit and actually accepted an offer within 24 hours of his departure. He's now settled in his dream job, and his family is settled into their dream home also. They couldn't be happier. So when listening to the advice of others, be sure to carefully evaluate the advice and the advisor. Do they have experience in the industry and in the marketplace? What are their motivations for giving you the advice? Weigh all of the advice that you receive against what rings true for you in the truest, deepest gut level and against factual information. If it doesn't, or if you simply want to make sure you're making the most educated decision possible for yourself, don't take the advice unless you're willing to risk missing out on potentially a monumental opportunity. Trust the process. Think about all of the fairy tales that you were that were read to you while you were growing up, or all the movies that you've watched over the years. Even though main characters end up living happily ever after, they had to slay some dragons and travel uncertain, sometimes treacherous roads to get there. In every story, there's a protagonist and an antagonist, mountains and valleys, dips and peaks. Likewise, in your job search, you'll have highs and lows. You'll find openings that don't appear ideal, and you'll have promising opportunities that for reasons you can't control or don't understand simply don't pan out exactly as you hoped. There will be times where you feel excited and hopeful, and times where you're completely overwhelmed and confused. No matter how you feel, stay the course, trust the process. It's in going through the journey that we learn to recognize the monumental opportunities. But then once we recognize them, we must be willing to act on them. Are you willing to let someone else take your monumental opportunity because you feel you must go on a certain number of interviews? Benjamin Franklin once said, quote, "To succeed, jump as quickly at opportunities as you do at conclusions." I agree with Ben's wise statement. And in closing, I want to encourage you to expand your mind to what's possible in your job search. Be open to possibilities. Look beyond the packaging to see the gift inside. Create a solid support system for yourself and consider the source of sound advice. And through it all, just trust the process. You never know where your monumental opportunity will be presented.